Hey, thanks for joining us. This is Live with Miami's Community News. Our guest today is James Richards with the Miami-Dade County Solid Waste Department. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you again, Mike.
And we're going to talk, among other things, about chemical collection and what we do with our stuff that's left over in the bottom of our metal cans, like paint and kerosene, if that's used, gasoline, oil,
pesticides, herbicides. I mean, it's a constant process that a lot of people go through, is going in their garage or their shed and going through the chemicals and paints that they might have just sticking around for such a long period of time. And, our department has two locations that any Miami-Dade resident can go and visit during their operating hours and drop off those chemicals so they could be disposed of properly. So it's a service we really want to promote.
So one is up north end?
Yeah, right. So one is in Doral on 58th Street. The other is down south by our South Dade landfill. And so those locations are open Wednesday through Sunday. They're closed Mondays and Tuesdays. And like I said, they're open to all Miami-Dade residents. Doesn't matter if you live in the city of Miami, if you live in Miami Beach, Homestead. Any Miami-Dade County resident can come to those locations and dispose of those chemicals properly.
When I was a little kid, I found these kittens, so I took them over to the nuns' homes and I left it at their front door. So my question to you is, when somebody has these cans and they drive over to either south or the north one and you're not open, do people leave them at the front door?
Sometimes they do, but we really advise people not to. We have those hours set because we figure a lot of people have availability on the weekends. So
Yes.
Those centers are open on Saturdays and Sundays. And so that provides a lot of residents that opportunity to go and drop off those materials on days that they might not be working. So we really don't want people just leaving things unattended at those centers.
So how do we raise the consciousness of the average citizen? I consider myself in there. Say, you need to dispose of this properly, rather than, oops, I knocked over the cannon and went into the grass.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's why we're here. We have a campaign called Detox Your Home. So, health and well-being is really in the consciousness of a lot of people, especially when you're talking about your personal health. But we also want to make sure the environment, we detox people's homes and make sure that those toxins and toxic chemicals don't end up in our environment. So we have a campaign that has social media posts. We have videos on YouTube. We have billboards and advertisements on the roadways and bus shelters and in mass transit. So we're really trying to get the word out that this is an option for people rather than just putting it in their garbage carts for collection.
So one of the things we've all learned through the last, seems like 2 years almost with COVID, which is that we're part of this total community of the world. And what we do, each of us does affect our neighbor, all right, and our family. And we can see that with the spread of COVID, and that, so we do things so as not to impose our us on them and vice versa.
No, absolutely. And really it comes down to personal responsibility, personal pride, civic pride. And we really have hope and trust in the customers and residents in Miami-Dade County that they want to do the right thing. And the right thing to do is to bring those materials to one of those two locations for disposal. And again, I don't know if I mentioned it, it's free to use these locations. You don't have to pay anything. All you'll have to do is produce your driver's license to verify your residence, and you could use those facilities and do the correct thing for the environment.
And one of the things I've seen the county do is refer to taxpayers also as customers. Mm-hmm. And when that sort of changes around, you go, oh yeah, I am a customer, all right? And so we prepay for this stuff. And when we use it, we expect to get a certain type of service, and both ways. I do want to tell you that I had the opportunity to use the bulk waste pickup. Yes. Mm-hmm. Right? I learned a bunch of stuff here.
Yep.
And I took pictures of the pile.
Oh, good.
And I needed it because people kept coming by and dumping that stuff and dumping it. And oh my goodness, it wasn't twice, but this is pretty big. It was longer than from here to here, right? And you realize that I was getting ready to put aside, this is not a public dump. I took a picture of a guy dumping there, and I did it far enough away so he wouldn't come after me, because I learned, right? So when you see piles out on the street at somebody's yard, that's not yours. You can have a free pickup. You get twice a year.
Right. So if you're one of our customers, you're entitled to 2 bulky waste pickups of up to 20 cubic yards per pickup. Or if you have a large pile, like you mentioned, you could combine those pickups into one pickup of up to 50 cubic yards, per year. And the thing about it is, you're right. Unfortunately, some people take advantage. They see a pile in front of someone's home. They're like, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and add my stuff to it as well. And that's not really fair, because there is a limit to the amount that our customers are allowed to put out in front of their homes. Right. Anything that's over that amount, you're going to have to pay to have removed. And so, we always advise our customers, if you do have a pile out at the curb and you do observe any sort of illegal dumping, even if you don't see the people doing it, if you notice that additional items are on your pile, call 311 to report it. Our enforcement staff will come out, do an assessment, and that way that additional material doesn't count against what you put out yourself.
Right. So let's talk again back to the disposable the chemicals.
Yes.
So tell us about paint, because a lot of people have paint at their house,
Yes.
right? And some of it is the full gallon, some of it's a little bit,
Right.
and it just sits in that closet for a couple of years.
Yeah, I'm a guilty party as well. I have lots of paint cans from when I first moved into my home. I mean, it's going to almost be 9-10 years since I moved into my home, and I still have paint in my garage. What you don't want to do is put those paint cans into your garbage cart. I can't tell you how many times we get calls from customers who are reporting that our trucks are leaking paint. They're spilling paint on our street. Come out and clean it. And it's not our truck that's spilling it. It's someone who unfortunately placed their paint can into their garbage cart. It goes into our cart, it spills, and it leaks on the street, and it causes a real problem, not only for our trucks, but obviously for the communities that we serve, to have paint spilled on the street. So we really want people to take the initiative. There are two options. Obviously, take it to one of our home chemical collection centers, but if you can't do that, let the paint totally dry inside the can, and then you could throw it away and put it in your green cart.
So if somebody dumps a liquefied paint into the green thing, you guys and you pick it up, and they throw it in there, and it gets smushed, right?
Right. Yeah. No. The trucks compact the waste that is collected.
Smushed is a smushed.
Right. Smushed, compact, press, clamp, however you want to say it. Yeah. It compresses that material to try to get as much as possible. But when that happens, even if there's a lid on top of that paint can, it's going to come off. It'll eventually make its way through the truck and find an opening that will eventually, unfortunately, lead to spilling on the at least on this roadway.
And the county is really serious about trying to keep the environment clean. I know there's an ordinance. Don't fertilize your stuff between certain months. I think that's now, because that stuff washes into our drinking water eventually.
Right.
All right. And by the way, Tommy's going to be doing mainline Marlins in about a half an hour, I think. So tune in. All right. They get that right, Tommy?
That's right.
Okay. So, and the county has really been good at working on keeping the bay cleaner. All right. And all that sort of, it's together. You can see there's a sentiment of we need to protect our environment. And that's one of the things that COVID also did. When we look at pictures of the bay, like last summer, all right, as compared to prior to March, April, January, February, the difference was like amazing. It was like the water in the Bahamas. And so we do that, right? As living, that's a roadway, if you will. It just happens to be water rather than asphalt. And again, the county's trying to figure out a way that we can get off septic tanks, right? All that stuff adds up to, when you have paint, dispose it properly.
Yeah.
Now, there is a place where people can go and they can pick up real good paint, which is sort of mixed up together.
Right. So we have a program at our home chemical collection centers called the Chem Again program. And so let's say someone has, pesticide or herbicide or, a cleaner that they've only used a little bit of, but they decide they don't need it anymore. So they drop it off at our home chemical collection centers. Our staff does an assessment on the material, and if it's still, a good quantity and it's still usable, Miami-Dade County residents can show up to our home chemical collection centers and pick up these, gently used materials for free. One of the other things we do is, like you mentioned, if someone donates paint, if it's in good quality and we're able to repurpose it, they'll actually, mix the paints to make it, I think it's like a beige color, just like a base coat, kind of muted color, and they'll make that available as well. And actually, I'm glad you brought this up, because during the pandemic, of course, we had to scale back our operations and put some safety protocol into effect to make sure that our staff and our customers were safe. And so we paused and suspended our Chem Again program. We just recently reinstated the program. So now we're actually trying to encourage people to bring their home chemicals to those centers so that we could restock and have those materials available for pickup.
What a great thing for parents to do with their young children. This is how we do that, all right? And tell us if somebody has a green cart and it's falling apart, what can they do?
All right. So you want to call 311. You could also go to the 311 Direct website, which is miami-dade.gov/311 Direct, and you can report that cart is damaged. We also have a mobile app on Android and on iTunes. It's the MDC Solid Waste app, and you could also report your damaged cart through there. Once your request is processed, our staff will come out and assess the cart, see if it can be repaired. And if it can be repaired, it will be fixed. And if it cannot be repaired, we'll go ahead and replace the cart.
I want you to know, when I call, it's going to have no wheels left on it. The size can be, because it's like, okay, how long can I keep them? And I hear that, and it's like, okay, I get it. And I've actually, since I've learned a lot about this, I've been paying more attention to it. Now, how do we get post-pandemic kids to know more about this so that they can begin the process of keeping the environment clean?
Well, that's actually a great question. Our department recently has utilized virtual webinars to inform the community about what we do as a department. Everything from recycling, home chemical collection, our waste to energy plants, even mosquito control. We have basically come together with a webinar series. It's going to be every week. We did several throughout the summer. We did a pause because we're just trying to ramp up for, I believe after Labor Day we'll be having a new series of webinars. But if they go to our Facebook page, which is Miami-Dade Solid Waste on Facebook, you can find more information, or go to our website. And we're going to have these webinars on a weekly basis, and they'll touch on a number of topics. Again, I believe we're going to be starting, if not this week, possibly next week, and it'll run the gamut of all the different topics that we go over. And this is a great resource because not only will they be live on Zoom, we'll also have them on Facebook Live on our Facebook page, and those, of course, are kept so that you can play them for classes. Classes can participate. They'll be taking place at, I believe, 1 o'clock on Thursday, so that's toward the end of the day for schools. And so anybody could participate and join in and learn a little bit about what our department does and how our customers can help and how they can help the environment as well.
So can we go over the recycling process?
Sure.
I know that. All right. So somebody, let's say they got the green cart or they got the blue cart, and it goes into the different trucks. All right.
Yes.
And let's talk about the things that we try to recycle. All right. Aluminum cans.
Yep. Very, 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 very recyclable. I believe it takes about 60 days from the point you put your can in your blue cart for it to be processed into a new aluminum can. And so aluminum cans are very, very recyclable. Yes, and they're desirable.
That's almost instant.
Almost, yeah. It's probably one of the quicker turnarounds. The aluminum industry, from what I understand, is very encouraged by the recycling habits of the public, and because of the quick turnaround, it's actually very helpful when there's a lot of aluminum recycle because they can process it and use it for new cans. And as you know, cans are very popular. It's a popular material to use for product packaging, and so that's why we really encourage people to recycle those.
And not too many years ago, the cans used to be a lot thicker, right? So that you can put it up. Now you feel it, but we've all gotten used to it. Yes, it's thinner because it's whatever the reasons are. But let's talk about the one-use water bottles that are sold by the hundreds of millions. All right. Plastic bottle goes into the blue cart. What happens?
Well, all of the recyclables that are put into the blue carts in our system are taken to a materials recovery facility. Basically, that's where the materials are separated and sorted. They are baled together or compressed into these large, I guess they look like blocks, and then they're put on in shipping containers and sent to processing facilities where they are repurposed into new materials. So plastic bottles, like you mentioned, are one of the acceptable materials that we collect. Aluminum cans, like you mentioned before, cardboard, cartons, and paper are the other materials that we accept in our recycling program. So everything else that doesn't fall within those 5 categories, please put in your green cart for disposal.
Okay, let's talk about the cardboard boxes. Everybody gets them, right?
Yep.
I don't know how many more boxes there are today compared to like 15 years ago. And sometimes the boxes are a little bit bigger, and they're pretty strong as compared to years ago. And you sort of have to squish them and try to get them in the can, but then it really takes up a lot of space versus other stuff. So some people say, why don't you just leave it out in the yard for a while, it'll get wet, and then you'll be able to put it. What does that do to the cardboard?
No, it's actually counterproductive to the recycling process. Whenever you get any sort of porous material wet, that invites rot mold, all sorts of bad things that are counterproductive to the recycling process. So we always tell people it should be clean, it should be dry, and it should be flattened. That's one of the most important things. We get complaints sometimes. Oh, my recycling cart wasn't emptied, and our staff goes out to investigate. And it's because they have a completely unfolded box sitting on top of their wedged in their cart, and nothing else can come out. And so it's really important to take a few minutes, and I do it all the time. If you have these large boxes that you get from Amazon or anything that's been shipped to you, just take a moment with a pair of scissors and just flatten it, cut it if you need to, but fold it so that it fits within your cart with the lid closed, because our recycling contractors, the drivers, may not collect your cart if the lid is open and things are sticking out.
So this stuff is taken to a plant, and then it's sort of compacted together.
Yes.
But so at that point, they would take the cardboard out. Is that what you're saying? If it's wet?
Well, the thing is at that point they can't really do that. We really, with any sort of education regarding recycling, you want to try to influence the behaviors of our customers before they put anything into their cart, because if they do what they're supposed to and they have that lid closed and the truck comes with an automated arm and empties it into the truck, the driver can't see what's going in. And so by the time it gets to the processing facility, it will be commingled with clean dry cardboard. And then when it is baled together, imagine a bunch of wet cardboard pressed up against clean dry cardboard. What is that going to do? That liquid is going to transfer to those other pieces of clean cardboard, and that'll cause a problem for the bale of.
So we want to know what can be done for the pizza industry so that those boxes, of which there are clearly tens of millions, probably many more than that are essentially non-recyclable.
Right. Absolutely.
Because the grease gets into it, and you look at it, there's this huge stain at the bottom.
Right.
Tommy, I wonder what that's doing to our stomachs when we eat that, right? So have there been conversations with the big box users, producers, about how to make those so that it's going to be easier to recycle them?
Well, I think that their hearts may be in the right place using cardboard. I think that they would hope that those materials could be recycled, but the bottom line is grease is a byproduct of the food that they make, and unless there is any a really thick liner on the bottom of the pizza box, there's really nothing we could do as far as it contaminating other cardboard. Now, what I always tell people is you could order a greasy pizza, that's fine. If you really want to recycle your pizza box, tear off the top. Unless the driver is zooming around the corner or something like that, the top should be dry and clean. So you just throw away the greasy part of the box, but recycle the top, and that'll be good enough for
30 years ago, we would never, or only a few people would ever consider doing that. Now you can see that people they admonish us frequently. Why are you using that one-use bottle over there? Okay, and then you start realizing it's a whole bunch of things. It's a lifestyle change on how we do things. I was at one of the drugstores the other day, and she put this stuff in the bag and said, I don't want the bag. All right. And so she was probably going to throw it away, but you know what? I didn't want it in my truck because I know exactly what I'm going to do with it. Right. It's going to sit in my truck for a couple of days and I'm going to throw it out. So I think it's, what's the word? The last one is refuse it. What's the first two?
Oh, so it's a reduce, reuse, and recycle. So,
recycle.
So it's the fourth R, you're saying.
And it was like, and it got easier to do. Yeah. And once you start doing it, and you're acutely aware of it ahead of time, it just becomes a habit. And because when you get the bags into them in my truck, and then I look in the back seat, not in the back, but in the back seat, I don't know, here's 4 days worth of plastic bags. And all it was from there to here, and I didn't do anything with it.
Yeah. No, I mean, we try to encourage people, number one, not to recycle plastic bags. They're actually very, very problematic in the process. They get caught in the machinery at the sorting plant, and they are not recyclable in our program. We tell people to bring them back to the retailer. So let's say you go, excuse me, to a Walmart or a Publix or a Target, excuse me, they usually have containers at the front of the store where they'll accept those bags for recycling, and they have contracts with recyclers who will accept the bags for processing. We don't. It's an issue of the facility that we use. And so if we don't accept them in our program, we advise people to take them back to the retailer or reuse the bags for another purpose. I know a lot of people, especially dog owners, may use them, to follow their dog on their walk and clean up after them. That's a perfectly good, example of reusing a material rather than putting in your blue cart, to try to recycle it when it really isn't recycling and it will cause a
So
problem.
not all plastic is recyclable.
Well, I would say not all plastic is recyclable in our program.
Okay.
And we accept narrow neck containers, which are bottles. Yogurt cups, the clamshell containers that that hold food, takeout boxes and things like that are not recyclable in our program, and it's for a variety of reasons, but primarily recycling is a market-based process where if there is not an end user who will want to buy that material, there's really no demand for us to collect it. And so there are specialty recyclers who will recycle specific types of material, like I mentioned, the plastic bags. But for our purposes in our single stream curbside recycling program, we only accept plastic bottles, narrow neck containers.
So the items that go into the green carts, they go onto your floor over there,
Mhm.
and there's conveyor belts. You can sort of sort out the stuff.
Right. So actually, the blue carts. Yeah. So it's basically like a factory with a bunch of conveyor belts. There's different machinery that will sort it. It's almost like I guess a sieve where it will actually shake out smaller materials. There are blowers that blow lighter materials. So you think of like paper and things. It'll blow it out of the conveyor. And it's really there's also hand sorters there as well. I forgot to mention that there are people there who will go through and pick out the bad items on a conveyor belt. Now they do a great job, but it's not 100%, and so that's why you have the machinery to do the job as well. And so it's a very intricate process, but the amount of non-recyclable materials that we still get in our blue carts is a problem, and so contamination is something that we continue to address.
So when stuff goes in the green carts,
Mhm.
it goes to and it gets burnt.
Yeah.
You-
So the vast majority of the garbage that we collect in our program gets used as fuel at our waste to energy facility in Doral. And so that's the vast majority of the garbage. So you put it out of the curb and you think, oh, it's going to be landfilled. Actually, no. Our material is used to generate electricity to power the plant, and then it also generates electricity enough to power about 30 to 35,000 homes.
So when that green cart truck goes to your plant,
Mhm.
you guys go through it first before you incinerate it?
Well, no, actually, because it's kind of the end of the line. One thing we do. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Toy Story movies. Well, the way we always kind of explain it is Toy Story 3, I think. Woody and Buzz are on a conveyor belt and they're going to this big pit, right, with this fire, and they feel like it's the end of the line, and then the claw comes and picks them up. That's basically the same type of process that we have at our plant. And so once the garbage is burned, there is a process where we take out metal. So things that don't get incinerated, like aluminum, non-ferrous metals and things like that. We take those out and then we recycle those.
After it gets burned.
After it gets burned. And then we recycle those materials.
So tell me what happens when the guy throws the paint can in there and the bug spray can in there and they throw all the other cans into the green carts. What's the process? What happens?
So, like I said, it gets compacted and it gets all mixed in. Our trucks go to several transfer stations, and that allows for the process to kind of be condensed so they don't have to go to the waste to energy plant, or if they're collecting trash, some of our trash trucks go to our landfills. But our garbage trucks go to these transfer stations where everything is kind of piled in on these large tractor trailers, and then it's brought to our waste to energy plant, where it's collected and then put into our processing facility to be incinerated to generate electricity. It's all steam based, so steam rises, moves turbines, generates electricity.
So that paint can, garbage can, truck, compacted, goes to your place. Gets put in. Does the can get actually put in?
Mhm.
All right, gets put in there, and then when you get done burning stuff, if whatever's burnt, not burnt,
right,
you go and you break it out.
Right. Yeah. So we have magnets that actually pull out the metal. But again, you shouldn't be putting your paint can in your garbage cart. You shouldn't be putting insecticides, pesticides, fertilizer, any of that stuff in your green cart. You should take it to our home chemical collection center. But essentially, anything that you put in your green cart, vast majority of it will end up at our waste to energy plant for processing.
Wow, it's a real process on this.
Mhm.
And so tell us a little bit about yourself, if we could talk about you,
Yeah, sure.
How you wound up with the county.
Yeah, sure. So I went to Florida State University with got a bachelor's in business, and then I went to Florida Atlantic for my MBA. I worked for the city of Coral Springs part-time, and then I worked full-time for Broward County Parks and Recreation. And then I found out about this position with Miami-Dade Solid Waste. And I've been working here for about 5.5 years. So it'll be 6 years in December, actually. So it's a little bit more than 5.5. But it's a great opportunity. I work with great people. It's nothing's ever the same. You think that, garbage might be monotonous, going to pick up people's garbage every day, but there's always a new wrinkle, a new project, a new program, something new. And I really cherish the opportunity to come out and preach the garbage gospel, I guess, and share that information with our customers about what we do. And it's an important job to do, because if you don't pick up garbage, people will complain. If you do pick up the garbage, you don't hear anything. So on quiet days, I feel I rest assured that we're doing something right. And for the vast majority of the time, we do the right thing.
It is pretty amazing. We put the cans out front Mondays and Thursdays for me, and then I come back in the evening, and there they are, empty.
No, and that's how it should be. I mean, there will be hiccups from time to time. Things such as, if a driver is out and there's a replacement driver taking over that route, service might happen a little later than usual. Sometimes there are missed pickups. Sometimes carts are, accidentally fall into the truck. But as soon as we're notified of those matters and those issues, we try to resolve them as quickly as possible. And our staff is incredibly responsive. We pride ourselves on customer service, and we work every single day to make sure that our customers are happy and receive the service.
So if somebody has some concerns or questions or complaints, they can dial 311.
Yes, that's the best way to do it.
That's the best way to do it.
Yes.
And they will route that to the particular department that it needs to go to.
Absolutely. And 311 is the perfect way to log any complaints or make any requests, because they provide you with a confirmation number, what we call a service request number. And so that will actually create a history of service requests for your specific property. So we could go back and say, oh, well, this person actually did have this issue on this date. This is something that needs to be escalated to, be taken care of, because it's it's a repetitive issue. And so 311 is always the first step. And you could also, like I mentioned before, go to miamidade.gov/311 direct. That's the 311 online hub, where you could place those same service requests online rather than calling 311 directly.
And when we ordered the bulky waste pickup, I went online, I guess, to miamidade.gov, bulky rate. I put in my address, the address pops up. This is your address, and they have pictures. Is it over here? Is it the front of the house? Is it the side? Yep. And you're entitled to whatever it was, number 2. So you want a 50-yard or a 25. And it's a really cool way to do it. It is actually, for us, it was seamless. All right.
Great.
So it's this well-oiled machinery that's working very well.
Glad to hear it.
And that's due to folks like yourself. James Richard, thank you for joining us with the Miami-Dade County Solid Waste Department. And folks, we appreciate your time, and enjoy yourself and be safe out there. See you.